So today, I want us to focus on road accident fund payouts. Throughout South Africa, a number of attorneys on a daily basis are assisting hundreds and hundreds of claimants to claim from the road accident fund. Now, these claimants receive payouts almost on a daily basis, some in the hundreds of thousands of rands and some in the billions of rands. And these payouts come at a time when these claimants have been waiting for this money. Some have incurred debt, and they have both immediate and long-term needs in relation to the payout that they have received. And it's always advisable, and many attorneys who are responsible enough advise those claimants to seek financial advice. Otherwise, they may end up like those individuals that we watch that show called I Blew It. So what would you advise as a financial advisor, how to balance those two competing needs, the immediate as well as the long term?
Good afternoon, Mr. D. Thank you for having me. So when it comes to the road accident fund payout monies, the traditional sort of investing or the mindset for them is oftentimes challenging, in the sense that a lot of the people that I come across who are recipients of the road accident fund, oftentimes some of them haven't been working, or they haven't had much of an income for the longest time. And so you do get those few who had been working, and there is true income interruption on their part. And you'll find those understand the investment strategies a bit better because they were already accustomed to the budgeting. But for bulk of our road accident fund payouts that I've come across, a lot of them have not had exposure to budgeting. So you'll find that by the time we start discussing investment opportunities, it's landed in the hands of someone who this is the largest, they never in their lives thought they'd ever come across this money. So whilst there would have been the natural debt that had been accumulated, a lot of them really fall within, or attempted to fall within, the category of, oh, I blew it, which really is sad. But I have tried to assist a couple that have landed on my desk by saying, you know what, I understand the needs of the now, right? You want to pay off that house eventually. You want to fix that roof that's been leaking for the longest time. You want to tabulate all of that and claim that as a lump sum to secure all of that. But then the bulk of the monies, let's invest it in something we call an income solution fund. So an income solution fund focuses purely on allowing the investor to have a monthly income without compromising the capital amount, right? So this creates a life income as well as a protection of the capital invested monies that oftentimes also grows. So we've got these solutions that are there. We've got these solutions that have worked. A couple of my clients have had the discipline to then enjoy this income and still continue to work in some form, or build, or some of them, when I'm a city, like part of the lump sum, they're going to build as if let's say 3 at their back to just have an additional annuity income on top of the payouts from these investments. So all these things work when we work them. But I found that oftentimes it's the understanding of the financial climate, or the understanding and sticking to the long-term provisions, right? So who cares about, I'm raising now my grandchildren, so this needs to be in the kitty for 15 years, will be different to someone who, well, it's my season, you pay out yam, I don't care about who comes after me. No matter how many systems we put in place, an additional lump sum withdrawal over, and then I say invested, then when we do that, we've got this monthly income as well as the capital, So we do have these systems, or these investments that allow for perpetual income. And then when the recipient is no longer around, the generation after them can still draw from this income. But it does need us to have frank conversations with our clients to say, the money, do you really want it to sustain you for the next 20 years? And if so, ayizophinda ivele ndawo enye, especially if umuntu no longer works, So if the client already has the long-term view in mind, it's easier to implement these systems because it's not a foreign concept to them. So by the time we introduce them to the basics of investment, as well as this income solution investment, then they take to it. And I'll be honest, even those who are new to the investment climate, get quite excited at the possibility of having an income that is consistently coming through on the third, like a paycheck, and then the capital is still preserved. I've got a client actually, Naya, who's a beneficiary of the road accident fund, who's now decided to go back to school using this annuity that that road accident fund has allowed for them. I've also got a client who was a road accident fund payout. Every 3 months, and withdraw an additional 300,000. And so I had to sit down with them and be like, in a space of 8 months, you've gone from 2 million to literally 800,000, and then to have those conversations to say, as an advisor, I mean, ultimately, so I'm not going to dissuade you from withdrawing, but in this period, this is what it's going to look like. And then only then that shock factor forces them to enforce some level of discipline.
So your job then, in a sense, requires, yes, the technical financial planning, but I suppose a bit of counseling as well.
Correct. Oftentimes I find myself, in fact, I'm a financial therapist.
Sounds like it.
I should change my, my role to financial consultant, to financial therapist, really. Because we've found that our financial outcome is strongly linked to, one, our behavior, two, our psyche, and our understanding or belief system that we've built about money over a long term.
Now, I heard you talking about investments when it comes to the long-term, planning around one's finances. Now, can you talk to me a little bit about the diversification when it comes to that? I imagine what you were talking about is simply investing money in certain funds. Now, would it be a good idea perhaps to diversify and perhaps obtain an income earning asset like a property in order to invest in that, in order to cater as well for the long term, as part of that bouquet of investment opportunity?
Absolutely, Mr. D. So diversification is extremely important. And now the level of diversification is also informed by the goals of the client. So if you come to me and you've got some short-term goals, which are, I want to remove all the debts that I accumulated while I was waiting on my road accident fund, that there is a short-term solutions goal. Now you'll have a medium goal that says, in the next 5 years, I would like to actually settle any and all sorts of debt, as well as I want to start paying for my children's school fees upfront. That's more of a medium-term goal. Anything longer than 7 years tends to be more of a long-term goal. So the diversification then comes in to say, we want to play around with the level of risk or equities that we expose our monies to, right? So if my goal is long-term, typically I'm talking to someone who's looking at earning on the higher side. So they're not too invested or hurt, or what's the word I'm looking for? They're not disturbed by the level of the volatility that more high risk investments poses, right? And the spread within that will always consist of some sort of cash or bond exposure to the market. It'll have some sort of exposure to properties, to equities, whether offshore or locally, right? So with the sort of solutions I often bring to my clients is already diversified within itself. So it'll have exposure to the cash market, bond market, property market, equity market. And I will just manipulate the percentages between these depending on your goals. So if someone who's got short-term goals, that person needs more exposure to your lower risk components, such as your bond market or your cash market. And they will still have some exposure to properties and equities, but not to the same degree as someone who's looking for growth. I hope that makes sense somewhat. So there will be that diversification. So we can put some of it in unit trusts. We can put some of it in ETF or tracker funds. We can put some of it in high equity components, but it's always in proportion to your goals.
From the little that you shared with us today, I'm already seeing the incredible value of consulting with a financial planner. Because so much of what you have presented to us today is not things that immediately that someone thinks about in terms of the whole picture, looking at the whole picture, looking at everything holistically, and putting together products that will meet the needs of the clients. Because someone will say, I'm going to take this money and just put it in a 32-day notice account, at my bank. Is that something that you would advise, and what are the disadvantages, if any, of that kind of an approach?
Certainly, there's space in a person's portfolio to cater to all the kind of like all the types of investments that are there. But when it comes to 32-day call accounts, that is an example of someone who says within 6 months, I want to have done this, so I'm not looking for growth. I'm not looking for anything. I'm just looking that my money, at least within that 6 months, is able to keep up with inflation. Then by all means, let's put it in a call account. But better than a call account sometimes is your money market accounts, because it's all about the growth versus the cost. I don't know if we've heard of the saying where it takes money to make money, right?
Correct.
So sometimes, whenever we're looking at investing or savings, we're always looking, what is it going to cost me to secure my money with the bank? How much does that 32-day call account cost me? What is the expected yield within that call account? And what is the net growth that I'm looking to get for that? Versus if I go into a unit trust kind of scenario, what are the growth or what is the growth that I'm expecting there? What is the sort of cost that it's costing me to put it in this money market account? And what are the call times of it? How soon can I need it? So for example, in a unit trust, you need your money from a unit trust. You'll have it in your bank account within 3 to 5 working days. You'll need your money from a 32-day account. You need to have given notice within 32 days. So it's not always that easy to access even some of the short-term investments that we look at. And I'm not saying call accounts are bad, but I'm saying call accounts are ideal for someone who knows exactly the date that they're going to need this money. They know exactly what they want this money for, and the lines there are clearer. And then on the unit, on the money market side of things, which is an equivalent to a call account in terms of the yield or exposure to some of the investments, there you've got more flexibility, which might be dangerous for someone who struggles with discipline, but you've got your flexibility, and the expensive or the cost to investing that money is oftentimes lower than what it costs you to invest your money within the 32-day call account. So it's just those conversations to say, okay, let's compare apples for apples. And are these actually apples for apples? Are we comparing apples to oranges? It's all fruit, but they don't necessarily give you the same thing.
Sure. Perhaps thank you so much for that. As a last question, I know, for instance, that you're with MapheQ Financial Solutions and that they are independent brokers. What would be the advantage of someone going with an independent broker as opposed to going to their local bank where they bank their monies and getting this kind of advice?
All right. So the benefits of independent brokers is that we will have access, or in fact, the term independent broker already alludes to the contracts we've got in place. So we're not tied to one specific product line. So we'll have a license with Investec or 91. We'll have a license. This is now on the investment side. So we'll have a license with your Marriott Investment Solutions. We'll have a license with your Allen Gray, with your Alex Forbes and such. So by the time I bring an investment solution to you, it's already compared 91 to Glacier to your Alex Forbes to this. Okay, so you've got that, and without you having to go to Allen Gray to do the competing for yourself. So we are the person who forms the relationship between the providers as well as the client. Second differentiator oftentimes is that our fees tend to be more negotiable than what you'll find in the banks. So all our solutions are oftentimes more flexible. They allow for building blocks for you to make what specifically the client needs, as opposed to just taking what already is there, if that makes sense. So I would oftentimes go with more of a broker approach, only because of the exposure that they've got within their market, versus tying all my eggs within the bank that I bank with. Their solutions tend to be more restricted to a certain offering or certain guideline that they've got access to.
So in other words, if I were to summarize it, I would be correct in saying that going with an independent broker rather like yourselves allows the client to get the best products to meet their needs and not be restricted to, for instance, going to Bank A that only has a certain type of product, or their products, give you certain types of yields, and you do not have a wide variety to choose from.
Correct.
And lastly, I know I did say lastly, previous question, but really lastly now, talking about fees, I think people would really be interested in knowing about the fees. How much does it cost, for someone to see and get perhaps a presentation of this nature that is personalized, from someone like yourself?
Okay. So my first consultation is always free. It's to meet and greet and understand the client's needs at no cost to the client. And then thereafter, I do charge a consultation fee.
Sure. I mean, you're a professional. Yeah.
Negotiated, correct. That can be negotiated. However, the industry is set up in such a way that the payment often comes via the solution. So if, for example, we want to take up an investment, there will be an advisory fee of up to 1.5% upfront that we charge on lump sums, and then we'll have an ongoing fee as well. But the first consultation is always free to understand the client's needs, see if it's something that falls within my scope of expertise. Oftentimes it is, because I'm brilliant.
Oh, wow. Talk about confidence.
And further to that, the process of financial planning is really a relationship building process. So we want to see if are we a good fit as client and advisor. Are you gonna take the measurements or the advice that I've put in place for you? Will you trust me to see it through? And I know people have been burnt very badly in the past with advisors who just want to take them for a buck, which is a thing that happens in the industry. So it is very important that the relationship that you've got in place kind of like speaks to the value system of both the broker as well as the client. So, but short answer, first consultation is free. Thereafter, there is a fee to consulting.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Zizo, for your time. We truly appreciate you joining us today and to dispense your wisdom, your brilliant wisdom, as you indicated. And we look forward to many more conversations that will help to assist our clients to make wiser and better financial decisions.
Is it okay if I market my finance minute for all the listeners?
Sure, go ahead, please. Whatever value we can add. Yeah.
Absolutely. And people better take my free advice while it's there, So I've started a blog recently that's called Zizo's Finance Minute. And the intention behind it is to bring the information to the people. We found a gap. And it really caught me off guard. I've been in the industry for a minute now, and I would have thought that a lot of my circle of influence kind of like understand the nature of the industry, the value of having a broker, understanding just what I would deem the basics, like what is the difference between simple interest, compound interest. But to my surprise, there is still just such a gap in as far as people don't know their own benefits. They don't know. I'll sit with a client and I'll say, okay, well, send me your employee benefit statement. Well, what's that? And you've been with this company 6 years, 7 years. Are you really saying to me that the last time you heard of this was when you signed your employment contract? Well, how do you know how your retirement is tracking? How do you know you're not overinsured? How do you know? So when a client comes to me, typically they'll say, Zizo, I need an investment. I'm like, well, how do you know that? What is that based on? I don't know. I just felt like I didn't have a savings investment. And so I just want to just start saving. Okay, well, what do you want to save for? don't actually know. I haven't, so there is such a gap in terms of the knowledge that our clients have got access to versus the people who just feel like they can do their own financial planning. So I've started a finance minute where I bring the information to the people, but there's so much to share that sometimes I'm always like, okay, well, let's speak on this for now. Let's speak on this. So if people can start following my finance minutes, they will either find it on my personal page on Instagram or our company's page on Instagram, which is MapheQ Financial Solutions on Instagram. We're on Facebook as well.
Sure.
But for my personal page, it'll be Zizo _Jela, something like that. If you just look for Zizo Jela, you'll find it.
Something like that. But we'll put it on the screen, don't worry.
Yeah, no, the people must put in their stalker caps on. Find me online. And so that there's so much information. And now the danger with a lot of access to information is that sometimes you can come across a lot of disinformation or incorrect information. So it's so important that the channels where people find the information. So Zizo's Finance Minute is one of those credible sources where you can trust that will bring information with no strings attached, so that you can take your time. Do we want to have a broker? Do we not want to have our broker? What is the benefit of having a broker versus just having an advisor at the bank, or just a tied broker versus an independent broker? All these things. What's the difference between savings and investing? What's the difference between life cover, funeral cover? All these things. There's so much that we need to still do, Mr. D. And I'm really hoping that sessions like this will start to add to the knowledge base and the decision making of our clients.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, Zizo. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much, Mr. D. Have a good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.